Hi everyone, what's up? So in this video, I'm going to guide you on how I switched from a QA engineer to a data engineer with a high package. So I started my career as a quality assurance engineer, and within 2 years time, I was able to grab the role of a data engineer with 200% hike. So in this video, I will discuss the following points. How I started my career and what I did as a QA engineer, how I upskilled myself, how I applied and got my CV shortlisted for a data engineer role, what did I prepare for the interview, and finally, how I utilized the 90 days notice period and counted offers to grab a 200% hike. Other than this, there is a bonus content at the end, which is, what if I did not get into a big data project at the start of my career, or I don't have any previous experience in big data, then what to do? In case you are interested in specific part, then feel free to skip forward, but I'll suggest you to watch the entire video as it will be very useful. So I started my career in Wipro Limited as a project engineer, and my first project was with a bank based out of UK. In that project, I was working as a quality assurance engineer. So the developers would prepare the Spark code in form of a jar file, and my job was to run this jar and pass a sample table as input parameters and finally check if the output table has correct data or not. We would receive a mapping document that contains all the operations applied to individual columns of the source table and what was the expected output data in the target table. As a QA engineer, we would perform stress testing and mainly check cases like if the target table's count is correct or not, transformation performed were generating correct data or not, were there any null cases, and in case of any issue, we would raise a bug to the dev team. So this is more or less what I used to do, and I hope this is somewhat familiar to all the QA folks watching this video. Now, I always wanted to learn how the source data is transformed and mainly work as a developer. But because I was from a tier 3 college and later started working in a tier 3 company where projects are allocated randomly. So if you started with a development work, then you're quite lucky, but at least I got into the big data project, which ultimately helped me in learning with the development side of things. Now in day-to-day job as a QA, I mainly use the Hive query language to check the output table or the target table's data. Initially, I had to understand the environment, but Hive was very similar to MySQL, so it didn't take much time to grasp it. Now, let's check how I upskilled myself in big data applications. Even though I was only using Hive in the project, I also had some idea about programming. I knew how to code in Java, and in my current project, the developers were using Scala to write the Spark code. So I did 4 main things basically. First, search on YouTube what is big data and choose any short video to get a basic idea. I enrolled into a Udemy course as well to learn Spark programming, as Scala was used in the project at that time, so I focused on Scala only. You can use any top-rated Udemy course. As I said, I used Hive query language in my QA jobs, so I also studied and practiced more concepts of SQL. At that time, I practiced SQL questions on HackerRank because it was easier for a beginner. Then check with your team what storage platform you are using, like if it is ADLS or AWS S3 or HDFS. You can go through a quick YouTube video for the same and then try to explore the platform in your system to get a better understanding. If you do all these 4 things, then within 3 to 6 months, you will get a good idea on how to work as a big data developer. During this learning phase, I also asked help from one of the developers to install the Spark development environment, and I practiced it on my work laptop by reading the same code that the dev folks have written. Once I was confident of my skills, I asked the project manager to give me some development tasks. Slowly I got adapted and started working as a full-time data engineer in my project. I had a total of 2.5 years of experience in my first company, in which for the most part I was working as a QA, and only the last 8 months I worked as a developer. But I showcased my entire experience as a data engineer, and this is how I did it. First, connect with your senior employee and try to get an end-to-end understanding of your project. Make a detailed note of it in a notepad, then go to ChatGPT, paste this experience and write, convert above text into bullet points. Bullet points are suitable as they are much easier to memorize. Then add whatever task you did in detail and try to include it with the project architecture in order to create your past experience. Instead of mentioning that you worked as a QA, write that you worked as a data engineer. Pause the video and try to read through what is mentioned on screen. You will get a good idea. Once the past experience is ready, hop onto Canva and use any sample resume template and edit it. Make sure you write your experience in detail along with the skill set and also add a profile summary consisting of everything you did in short points. After that, I made my profile on LinkedIn and Naukri and submitted all the necessary information. I got most of my interview calls through Naukri.com. The trick is to keep uploading your CV every day, that way your profile is always at the top of the queue. If you want to know more on this topic, then I have dedicated a video for it. Feel free to check that out as well, but after you have finished this one. The link is in the I button as well as in the description. Now that you have some confidence on technologies used by a data engineer, it's time for applying another job with higher pay. In this part, I have included some topics that are asked in interviews. Let's break the topics into theoretical and coding questions. So the theoretical questions are as follows, like 3 V's of big data, Spark architecture, RDD data frame and dataset, cache and persist, repartition and coalesce, broadcast join, Spark SQL joins, window functions, different file formats, difference between delta and Parquet, how to perform upsert in a data frame. These are few important topics that you should definitely study. I use SparkByExample website to study these and many other Spark topics, and you can do that too. So the coding part will take longer to prepare, so better start practicing at least 3 to 6 months before you start applying for jobs. The first part is Python or programming practice. Use HackerRank if you are beginner to competitive programming. Solve first 50 questions of string and list with your favorite programming language. String and list are the most important data structures that are asked in data engineering interviews. Once you are done with the 50 questions of HackerRank, you can move to LeetCode and do the same. Solve another 50 questions. Coming to the next part, that is SQL. For SQL, I would suggest solve complete LeetCode 50 module, and it should be enough to give you idea of different types of question. I've given the link to LeetCode 50 in the description. If you are able to practice everything I am suggesting here, you are more than prepared for mid-senior role or someone who has just 2+ years of experience. Now this part comes when you have cleared your first interview and got the first offer letter. While in notice period, 2 obvious things will happen. Either the recruiters will schedule the interview or they will not, because your notice period might be too high. In these cases, I would note the recruiter's phone number and reach out to them when my notice period is 40 to 30 days left. Now I know it's tough to convince a recruiter to schedule interviews with 90 days of notice period. Trust me, I know the pain. So in this case, you can't be choosy, so whatever company recruiter reaches out to you, good or bad, small or big, agree to the interview even at lower salary. Let's say the company is only offering 20 to 30% hike to your current package. Still agree to give the interview, because your aim should be to get the first offer and get into notice period. Once you have received your first offer letter, simply resign. While in the notice period, make sure to call or message back those recruiters who refuse to schedule interviews as they needed immediate joiners. As your last day comes closer, you will get more and more calls from recruiters, so keep studying and keep revising. Let me share a quick hack that I did. Now every time I gave an interview, I made sure I noted all the questions. I'd prepare a notepad and make a list of the companies and what questions were asked. This way, every time I gave an interview, especially when it went bad, I noted the questions and solved them before the next interview. Next comes negotiating counter offers. When a recruiter reaches out, they will take all the information related to your experience and skill set. After this, they ask if you are holding any offer and how much you are expecting. Now in my experience, second question is a bit tricky, and if you quote too high, then you might end up losing the offer altogether. So what I did is, for every offer, I quoted 50% increment of the previous one, but I'd settle for 30% as well at that time. Because your year of experience is low and you are from a tier 3 company, so can't expect a big hike all at once. Instead, you should take small hikes at a time, which after multiple counter might become bigger hike compared to the first company's package. At least that's how I did, and I needed the second job so that I can get more exposure into big data solutions. And now after 4 years, I'm quite confident in my knowledge in this field. Now let's move on to the bonus content. Now this is another tricky situation where you are not into a big data project but aspire to be a data engineer. For this case, you can do the following things. Learning and upskilling part remains same. Try to practice as much as possible. In fact, become confident enough to prove yourself. When it comes to CV preparation, you can mention exactly what you did in your present company and mention the skill set on the top section, and emphasize on Spark, Python or Scala, SQL and Hive. Try to create some Spark projects. There are many videos available on YouTube, so you can pick a couple of them and try to follow their instructions. If you want me to create one, then comment below and please let me know. I will surely come up with a project that you can demonstrate in your resume. Finally, the recruiter or the interviewer might ask you that you don't have actual experience in DE field. Then what to answer in this case? First of all, be very calm while answering and then let them know this. Even if I may not have direct experience in the field, but while working in my previous company, I picked up some important skills like analytical thinking, conflict resolution, and effectively collaborating with team to address the client's requirement. Other than this, I'm well versed in Python or SQL, which is very crucial for this role. Moreover, I am genuinely excited to be part of your company and contribute my skills to your organization's growth. Practice saying this and be ready with cross question. You might not have direct experience, but you can impress them with communication, your self-confidence, overall determination towards learning and development. Do this and you will definitely get interview calls. Just one quick advice, because this is your first DE job, so keep your salary expectations a bit low. Just compromise with this low salary and work for 1 or 1.5 years and then again switch another job. While doing that, come back to this video, watch this entire video, just skip this part. So that's it for this video. If you found it useful, then please share it with your friends and like the video. In the coming few weeks, I have planned many such videos on Pyspark and SQL interview questions. So stay tuned for them, and if you have not subscribed, then please press the subscribe button and I'll see you next time.